Coming up, a Navajo high school teacher has been selected out of a worldwide pool of applicants to explore the deep sea. Plus, the Tohono O'odham Nation is getting help accessing the internet. And we meet a basketball coach from a South Dakota high school taking on an unusual challenge. Those interviews, plus headlines, are next on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Support for the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez comes from the Arizona PBS studios in Phoenix at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Arizona State University.
Hopa. Thank you for joining us. I am Aaliyah Chavez. A Native nation in Massachusetts is celebrating a land-back victory after the Supreme Court declines to hear a case against it. The case is a big win for the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and a legal boost for other tribes seeking to reclaim a land base. We start our reporting with Stuart Huntington.
The Mashpee Wampanoag tribe has been fighting for land for a long time.
We've been fighting for over 400 years, so there's always obstacles ahead of us, that's for sure.
From the Pilgrims landing on Plymouth Rock near present-day Mashpee, to the 1970s when activists stood up, to Congress, which granted federal recognition in 2007, to court when neighbors and even the Trump administration challenged the Mashpee's right to a reservation, to now where that right stands affirmed.
We were excited to get the news, but we also know that means, we need to roll up our sleeves and get to work as well. There's a lot of the things that we need to address with the state, with the federal government.
Before the court were aspects of the 1934 Indian Reorganization Act that allowed the Interior Department to put land in trust for Native nations. The challengers said that only applied to tribes that existed in 1934. The Supreme Court let stand an appellate court ruling that rejected that argument.
This is like fundamental existential question for this tribe and for other landless tribes who didn't have the benefit of a reservation in 1934 about, whether they're going to be treated equally with other federally recognized tribes, put on a level playing field with a reservation.
Today, the tribe can relax a little.
It really means a lot to us, but this is what it was all about in the beginning. This is why the tribal council was originally formed in the 70s when the tribe was suing the town for the land. Then our ancestors paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to be here. It's been a long battle, but we just want to say Katabaton Tamawish, which is a formal way of saying thank you to everyone that's helped us and prayed for us and supported us throughout this battle.
Stuart Huntington, ICT News.
Volunteers in Alaska have identified thousands who were unjustly sent to a mental hospital in Oregon over a century ago. Between 1904 and the 1960s, around 5,500 Alaskans were committed to Morningside Hospital in Portland after being deemed by a jury as insane, which was a criminal offense at the time. Many never returned, leaving families wondering about their fate. These lost Alaskans have been uncovered by research volunteers for more than 15 years. A new database went online in February, allowing families of lost relatives, many of them Alaska natives, to check on their loved ones and give them proper burials. In South Dakota, the Oglala Sioux tribe is officially supporting Palestinians in Gaza. In a 14-1 vote last week, the Oglala Tribal Council passed a resolution standing in solidarity with Palestine. In a press release, the tribal nation cited the similar history between Palestinian and Lakota people fighting against colonialism, even referencing Palestinian support at Standing Rock and Wounded Knee. The tribe's president was asked to advance similar resolutions to the Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Association, the Coalition of Large Tribes, and the National Congress of American Indians, among others. Near the Grand Canyon, the largest uranium producer in the U.S. is ramping up work on a contested project that has been mostly dormant since the 1980s. Officials from the Havasupai, a tribe that borders the Grand Canyon, say their worst fear has come true. They worry mining could affect water supplies and wildlife. The mining company Energy Fuels is pushing ahead, relying on decades-old permits and quiet support from the government. It comes as the Biden administration has pledged to triple the capacity of nuclear power worldwide to fight climate change. Well, Polynesian leaders are protecting whales by granting them personhood. Officials from the Cook Islands, New Zealand, and Tahiti signed a treaty last month recognizing whales as legal persons. The goal for the conservationists is that the legislation will pressure national governments to grant legal protections for whales in the future. Whales are significant to the Maori and many other indigenous peoples, yet 10,000 whales are killed every year because of ship strikes. According to the Hina Moana Halo Ocean Initiative, who spearheaded the treaty, restoring the whale population will also, quote, restore our communities. It's a story our partners at APTN have been following for 2 years about a young First Nations entrepreneur from the Yukon who was stitching a name for himself in the fashion world one bead at a time. Now the Owl Boy, as he is known, has another feather in his hat, his very own clothing line. APTN's Sarah Connors has the story.
So it's just pretty simple clothing, but I put a lot of work into it.
After 2 years of hard work, Ko and Quash is celebrating the launch of his new Indigenous clothing line. It's an impressive feat considering he's 14 years old.
I'm feeling really proud about it, like kind of bringing back my culture and all that. At such a young age is really impressive for me.
Quash is Casca, Taltan, and Tlingit. His new line, Bestie Owls, is an ode to his signature pendant beadwork, much of which features owls.
These are the bags I made. Then I made like fanny packs.
The line will include ready-to-wear clothing, accessories, and of course, beading.
I just really thought what if I did modern day clothing, like stuff that people wear in a normal day.
The young designer has received much acclaim for his work. Last year, he was the youngest person to have his work acquired by Yukon government's permanent art collection.
He also created the 3 gorgeous pendants pictured behind me.
Quash's success is no surprise to mentor Duma Alward. The online boutique shop owner first began selling Quash's work when he was 12. The two have been besties ever since.
It's humbling for me. It's proud mama almost feeling, like I feel like the mother hen, and beaming with pride. So happy for him. He deserves this. He's a really great human being.
I want to thank everyone who supported me on my journey from 2021 to 2024. In 2022,
Mom Barbara Morris also couldn't be more proud.
I feel like his future holds Paris, New York, and all the places he wants to go, Toronto, Vancouver, and I'm excited to be along for the ride.
The young designer's plan now is to go to more fashion shows. He hopes to one day be the next big Indigenous designer. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
For many people living in rural or tribal communities, accessing the internet is not the easiest sometimes. Almost 28% of people on tribal lands lack high-speed internet, compared to less than 2% of Americans in urban areas, according to the FCC. The Biden administration is providing funds to change that, but as Cronkite News reporter Maria Staubs found out, better connectivity may not be enough. Cronkite News brings us this story.
This construction project on the Tohono O'odham Nation is bringing the 21st century to a rural part of Arizona.
Here on the reservation, our connection with internet is kind of sparse, so it's here and there.
The Tohono O'odham Utility Authority is laying down a fiber optic network to provide high-speed internet to members of the nation. It's thanks to a $10 million grant from the Department of Agriculture.
We are moving more towards the technology era, and we don't want to get left behind.
Via Chin resident Tonya Joaquin says the high-speed internet will improve her family's education and health care.
We live about, 2.5 hours away from town. My son will have telemed, so he sees a doctor out at the Phoenix Children's Hospital. We don't have to drive there. We have a home visit on the internet.
We're able to educate and teach, our tribal membership of all ages.
Kristen Johnson manages operations for the tribe's main internet service provider. She says Broadband will provide opportunities for economic development.
Whether they're basket weavers, they're dressmakers, they harvest, or whatever they do, they're able to put that on the internet and be able to sell it and be, help themselves out.
Biden administration officials have been touring rural and Native communities like this one to learn their needs and assess the impact of their funding.
Broadband is like water. It's an essential public utility that should be affordable and accessible to everyone.
While members of the nation have welcomed the investment in broadband infrastructure, there are fundamental barriers that prevent its full implementation in Native American communities. High on the list, access to a computer or a smartphone at home and an understanding of how to use them.
We have elders that they don't even know what internet is.
Brian Fickett is the general manager of the agency that provides internet and cell service to the tribe.
These folks will be able to connect at home just like they would off the reservation.
Here at the Tohono O'odham Community College, a computer literacy training program provides 10 members from each district with education on how to use the internet.
Your subject line right here, and then your greeting, hello.
Lessons can be as simple as sending an email. Anselmo Ramon is one of the leaders of the program.
We trained them from the very basics of the components, moved them up to the features on the keyboard, move them up to turning it like on and off.
There are students of all ages here. Some are familiar with the technology.
It's been over 5 years since I used a computer, so this is really helping me to learn more.
Others are starting fresh.
It's really new to me. Everything's new to me. I've never been on the computers.
Funding for the computer training course lasts only 2 years. So Anselmo Ramon has devised a plan to grow computer literacy throughout his tribal nation. It relies on students passing on their newfound knowledge.
So in Train the Trainer, we want to train 10 people. In turn, we want those people to train another family member or a friend or a coworker.
It's a practical solution because tribal members understand before they can run with high-speed internet, they have to first learn how to walk. I'm Maria Stobbs for Cronkite News.
Arizona has been awarded close to $1 billion in funding for broadband, and the federal government is continuing to accept applications from underserved communities until May 14th. In the sprawling landscapes of a rural community, aspirations can feel like a distant mirage. This next story turns that idea on its head. ICT's Daniel Herrera has more on how one remarkable Navajo woman is turning the impossible into the possible.
Kim Etsitty is an educator at Navajo Pine High School and a recently selected 2024 Science Communication Fellow with Ocean Exploration Trust. I began by asking her what this means to her and what she's looking forward to.
It means a lot to me just because there'll be some top scientists who explore the ocean right now. And I think that being chosen has really just given me a lot of opportunities to share that experience and bring it into the classroom here in the desert. There's a rover or a machine that goes underneath the surface of the water, and that will go ahead and do all of the exploring for us. And I feel like this experience and bringing it back home to the reservation will tie in a lot of cultural knowledge and about water and how we can use that information to restore our waters here too on the Navajo reservation. One thing that I'm really looking forward to on this exploration is seeing how water plays a role in other cultures throughout the world. So my job on the Oceanic Trust expedition would be bridging the lead scientists to classrooms all over the world. So seeing how that I would be linked to classrooms in different parts of the world, and I could see how water is a sacred element there, and then also using my worldview as a Dene woman, and also bringing that into it and kind of just connecting the cultures, because a lot of times I feel like Western science really isolates objects and phenomena, and one thing that I feel like I could be a benefit to, or that they could benefit from me, is kind of seeing that the phenomena and the land and us being all like interrelated. In Diné culture, Navajo language, there's no word for science. It's kind of more interpreted as a way of life, and that's really hits really hard for me, just because it's overlooked in Western cultures. When we do enter Western classrooms, there's a disconnect between the science, natural world, and then us as human beings. And I really wanna like get to know how that ocean, like being in this expedition, can really influence students to, reach out and try to apply themselves to different opportunities like this.
Kim says this fellowship will show her students opportunities are available despite living in a rural area.
One thing is that just being here in Navajo, New Mexico, we have one gas station and 2 stoplights kind of thing. And it seems like we're so isolated to the point where the ocean and the cities, the big things that we see on TV, is so far-fetched to like kind of get a understanding and like as far as reality. And one thing that I really want from this is that I want my students to see like their teacher who looks just like them, like a native, and use that as maybe an inspiration to actually, apply themselves in the future and say, hey, like there are opportunities for us as Indigenous peoples, and some of it might not be as equal, but the fact that that it exists. And I think it's one thing that's really hard for my students to understand, is that being here in an isolated community or on the reservation, a lot of that stuff doesn't seem like it can happen. I want the community of like the Navajo Nation and also other rural communities to see that it is possible to go out there, and even though the ocean is far away from us, it still plays a huge role in our ecosystem.
So, is Western science beginning to look towards Indigenous knowledge in the wake of climate change?
I feel like there's a lot of, they call it traditional ecological knowledge, but I think some Indigenous cultures don't like that word traditional ecological knowledge, just because it seems like the word traditional is reflecting on a thing of a past, but when we're actually practicing it in present terms, and a lot of scientists are actually using that knowledge to fix certain certain restoration projects. They're using that. So I feel like there is a shift to go back into that teachings.
Daniel Herrera Carbajal, ICT News.
Hotter summers, longer pollen seasons, and record rainfalls. These changing patterns are putting our health and the health of those we love at risk. So, communities around the country are taking steps to prepare. State, local, and tribal health officials are using the Building Resilience Against Climate Effects framework developed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, called BRACE for short. The 5-step process is used to develop strategies and programs that help communities prepare a coordinated community response to the health effects of a changing climate. Step 1 is identifying what climate effects are relevant locally, how those might lead to new or expanded health threats, and who is most at risk. The next step is to calculate expected impacts on the local population, and then rank the severity of each threat. This is called projecting the disease burden. What it does is it helps health officials tackle the worst risks first. Step 3 is to identify ways the community can intervene to prevent or reduce health effects. For example, health officials who are expecting more high heat days might consider if it would be more effective to open community cooling centers or to collaborate on housing and development plans to protect vulnerable residents. Then in step 4, health officials work with other community sectors to develop and implement their plan. For example, health officials may work with city planners to reduce the impact of urban heat islands or with broadcast meteorologists to alert people to prepare for extreme weather. Step 5 is evaluation. Health officials assess the success of their adaptation plans and gather lessons learned to apply for future activities. These 5 steps in the BRACE framework are designed to be flexible and responsive to local needs. Any community, whether urban, suburban, rural, or tribal, can use BRACE to prepare for the local health impacts of a changing climate. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/climate and health.
A standout basketball player from Pine Ridge, South Dakota is taking on a new and unconventional challenge. Ruth Dreamer is the boys basketball coach for the Ulrich Tigers. Our partners at SDPB, Nate Weck and Jonathan Rouse, have the story.
Basketball is life to me. I grew up watching it before I actually got to play the game. So I think that's where the interest and the love for it grew, is I just got to be around it.
Ruth Dreamer has had a strong love for basketball her entire life. This year, she took a new job as the boys basketball coach for Ulrich High School.
This number calls me and they're like, hey, are you coaching anywhere? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, we need a coach. I'm like, where at? And they're like, Ulrich's boys varsity. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, if you're down. I'm like, yeah, sure, let me come in. Did the interview the next day, got hired, and it was definitely a challenge because, like I said, I didn't ever think I would, but it's exciting and it's fun. I really, really like it, especially with this group of boys. They're really eager to learn, so it's just been really, really an amazing experience.
Ruth grew up in Pine Ridge, where she became a standout player for the Lady Thorpes.
I actually had 1,800 points in my high school career, so the first thought people asked me was, well, when did I start playing in high school? And they actually asked me as a 7th grader to play, but I never wanted to. I always thought I was way too small, so I wanted to stay in middle school until I graduated 8th grade. But back then I played the first 2 quarters for my freshman team, so they're like, okay, we're gonna save you for JV. So then I played 2 quarters on JV, and they're like, okay, we're gonna save you for varsity. So I played 2 quarters on varsity, and then from that day on, I never played freshman or JV again. I became a starter for varsity for the rest of my career.
Ruth is focused on creating something special at her new home.
I guess it just shifted more or less to the program that I want to build here.
As long as you keep dribbling, he's going to get out of the way because you're bigger, but when you extend that arm, then it's offensive.
And Ulrich is a great school. They have Wilding, they have Woods. We're actually getting a new weight room built. Like I said, this gym's only 2 years old, this whole school actually. So it's just exciting because I think that's where my mindset shifted, where I'm not worried about my position as much as I am about the recreation of this school, the foundation of it. I really, really want to start and end my career here. This is the program I want to build.
It's a great opportunity. She pushes me to be the best that I can, and every day at practice, she doesn't force anything on me, and it just helps me love the game even more. She just pushes me to be a better person every day, and I appreciate it for that. My first thought when I heard that a female coach was going to be our coach was I thought she wasn't going to be able to coach us because she's a girl and this is a man's sport. But after the first day of practice, she showed me that she has a lot more to offer than other coaches in the past year, and she knows a lot more than boys, I can tell you that. She's a very vocal coach, but if you do something wrong, she ain't going to get on your butt about it and tell you that you're doing something wrong. She's going to teach you to stop doing that and make it a good habit rather than a bad habit. She taught me to eat right, healthy, treat your body just as you would. Don't put toxic things in it like smoking, drinking, alcohol, and that stuff,
Along with helping players be successful on and off the court, Ruth hopes she can also be a role model for future females in the state.
Honestly, I would say just, stick with your goals and dreams. Like I said, I didn't think I would be coaching a boys team, but I love it. It's exciting. It's a new challenge, and I'm always up for a new challenge. But, just take your time and be patient, because I almost was like I said, I was just going to sit back and not coach anywhere, and I answered that call or whatever. But I would just say take your time and just stay focused, because you never know when your opportunity is going to present itself.
1, 2, 3, yeah.
That is a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit us at ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.